Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and today I'm coming with the Washington Commanders 2023 training camp day 2 standouts. Again, I'm gonna give you the good and the bad, and of course, you know Rico of Street Scores, we're going through every single position group, starting with the coaches, then the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, all the way down to the defense, DBs, everything. So, man, I'm excited I finally found the time to get this done before like 4 a.m. in the morning. So, while everything is still fresh, I'm gonna go ahead and break everything down. Of course, I got to give y'all any injury updates that we may have, anything random that happened before and after the game, maybe some interesting press conference quotes, and usually I give y'all some special teams information, but there was no notable special teams information that came out of today's practice, so we won't be talking about that in this video. But before we dive into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for the daily training camp updates. I'm gonna always give y'all the clips from practice for y'all to see what happened, and you make your own evaluations and analysis of everything that went on. And then to make sure you also check out my daily breakdowns of every position group and everything that went on. And again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's going to be the good and the bad. Of course, so far we haven't been practicing with pads, so it's kind of hard to get a true feel of what everything looks like. And we're going to acknowledge that as we go through this video with certain position groups, how some are at an advantage with no pads and some are at a disadvantage with no pads and things like that. Also, stay tuned for all of the rookie film sessions that I'm working on. Ricky Stromberg is up next, hoping to have that done before week 1 of the Arizona Cardinals game for the regular season. Also, stay tuned for all of the random news. I'm working on another video right now that I'm going to probably come out with tonight, even after this one, so stay tuned for that. And without further ado, let's get it.
You tell your family you can be a commander.
First of all, man, I loved how deep the fan base was out there, man. The line to get in was absolutely ridiculous, man. Y'all showed out. And then Nikki Javala put out a picture saying this is what training camp looked like in 2022 and this is what it looks like in 2023. And I'm not even exactly sure if she's just pointing out the fan turnout, because I do remember some practices where a lot of fans were there and they were pretty full, but also just the look of the training camp, how they got like official like gateway railing and not just some simple little line of strings attached to poles, and then how there's like a full-blown stands for people to stand in and sit in and all of that type of stuff. It's like basically the same exact area from 2022 to 2023. So I took away more so what the facilities look like than like the fan turnout, because I do believe in 2022 we had some times where it was really full with fans, but of course this year is different because a lot of people that were boycotting the burgundy and gold more so for Dan Snyder than even the losing or pulling up right now. So I mean, I know this fan base is way deeper. We've already almost sold out week 1, so we're finally gonna have some home field advantage for the first time in years. I'm super excited. Also, y'all know whenever I get this information, I just feel like I need to tell y'all, but the first person to head out to practice today was wide receiver Bryson Tremaine, the undrafted free agent from Stanford. I like his tape, man. Out of the undrafted free agents, he's one of the ones that's most intriguing to me, mostly because he's a tall receiver and we just don't have those guys. We have Marcus Kemp, who's a special teams guy, and then Bryson Tremaine. That's really about it as far as the big guys go. Cam Sims is gone. Also, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin was at the Commanders practice, and so the video I'm gonna do later is a report that the Commanders could, there's a step forward to them potentially getting the rights, like it's all a bunch of legal stuff that will allow them to potentially put the new stadium in RFK at the RFK site in DC. And so I guess Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin heard about that and was like, oh nah, I need to go up to that practice myself and talk to Josh Harris in the face. And so he was there. So I'm assuming he was more than likely there because of the recent news about RFK. And then you have Mitchell Rails was there as well, Mark Ein. Both of those guys are partner and part owners of the Commanders with Josh Harris. And again, Youngkin had to have been there on like a promo run about like, man, I hear DC sounds nice. You're currently in Maryland, but how about you think about Virginia type of stuff? And it's crazy that we went from nobody wanting us to everybody fighting over us now. We went from no options to Maryland, DC, and Virginia fighting to see who will get us. That's how big of an ownership change we just made. If you didn't realize it, like ownership wise, like how the front office is going to be built, how we're going to win on the football field, you should at least notice it just by the fact that, first of all, the turnout from the fan base is definitely different. There's a different energy. And also now all of the politicians that at first didn't want it to have anything to do with the Commanders building a stadium in their areas, now they want everything to do with it. And again, they're even fighting over us right now. But of course, a lot of the fans just want to go back to RFK, and I fully understand that. That's like a nice middle, and for just the spirit, like, I mean, when we were winning Super Bowls, we were winning them where? RFK. So even if you call it superstition, call it whatever you want, going back to RFK may just have a secret sauce to it. So I definitely understand that. Now moving on, injury wise, the only real injury update is, again, Daron Payne missed practice. Still a very minor toe issue. That's the exact quote from a team spokesperson. So it's nothing to really worry about. Again, a couple of days ago, they said he would be day to day, all of that type of stuff. So nothing to truly worry about. And at the end of the day, man, whenever starters miss time, especially when it's a minor injury like this that we don't have to worry about, the super silver lining in it is that means Phidarian Mathis, like a backup guy, is now part of the starters. So Phidarian Mathis is moving up to the first string, and the guys that were second and third string also move up a little bit. And so those are meaningful snaps that these guys are getting now. Phidarian Mathis is getting starting level snaps now, so that should help his development and progression to get return from injury and all of that type of stuff, catch up to speed. And then really nothing noteworthy injury wise, which is a great thing. I'm hoping we can skip the injury portion of these videos every day. I hope it's just as smooth and as quick as this. There's no updates. Again, yesterday I already told you that Jamin Davis has been working with the second team as they work him back, like physically, like conditioning wise, and even mentally, like reps wise. He hasn't done anything team wise, team drills, 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s, anything, even practice like that since the Cowboys game last year, week 18, like the final game of the season. That's it. All voluntary OTAs, mandatory mini camps, things like that. He was just running little individual team drills, maybe jogging, doing some things with the cones, but he's never had to like cover anybody or anything like that. So he's working with the second team so far, as he's 100% healthy, it seems like, but it's just like conditioning things. And other than that, it seems like John Ridgeway's great to go. Casimir Allen is recovered from his hamstring injury. Again, nothing different from what we discussed yesterday, but I mean, just to give y'all another optimistic update, right now the only thing we're even slightly worried about is Daron Payne. Of course, my boy tight end Armani Rogers on IR. That's it. Everybody else is fully healthy, and then Daron Payne is day to day. But again, the way that they're explaining the toe injury, it sounds like it's so minor that if we had a game today, he would have played. Like if this were a regular season game that we needed to win, he would have played. This is just extra precaution because there's no other reason why not to. Also, really noteworthy before we start to dive into everything in the video, at first Tress Way had the loudest applause from fans, and I thought that was really cool until Eric Bieniemy came out. Nikki Javala pointed that out. I wasn't there, so I can't like completely confirm that, but that's what I'm hearing from several reporters. Tress Way had the biggest applause out of everybody, even more than like Sam Howell and the quarterbacks, which is just really funny and phenomenal. The fact that the fan base loves Tress Way that much, and the fact that he's still relevant even with all of the new changes that have gone on, until Eric Bieniemy pulled up, and then he was the one that received the loudest praise from the fan base walking into the practice field. Also, as Ron Rivera walked onto the practice field, a Commanders fan yelled to Ron Rivera, quote, "No BS, Ron, just football," unquote, like yelled it. And then Ron turned around with a big smile and gave the fan a big thumbs up. I'm telling y'all, man, Ron Rivera looks completely different this offseason. He looks so relieved, like just so stress-free. He's even cracking more jokes in the press conferences and things like that. He's not being all blunt and like next question type of thing, or answering a question so quickly and so short that you could just tell that he doesn't even want to be there. Right now, he's having fun, man. On the field, off the field. He just looks like a more jovial guy all around, which is really cool, man. But also, of course, speaking of coaches, before we get to the quarterback and the rest of the actual team, man, Eric Bieniemy is not playing with them again. This seems to be an everyday thing. He is getting on these players, most notably the offense, man. Yesterday, he was getting on Terry McLaurin over and over again about how he needs to run better. I've already did a full breakdown of my feelings about Eric Bieniemy and why he's coaching so hard, especially on guys like Terry McLaurin, who's one of the faces of the franchise. I already did a full breakdown of that last video, but I love the fact that he's coaching these guys so hard. And again, he's on the offense's head. Whenever they make a mistake, he's not playing. There was even one point where he kicked the ones off the field after a failed false start and a few negative plays. He was like, get off. Y'all clearly don't want to win. Y'all don't want to play. Y'all don't want to practice. Let's get some people out here that do want to practice. So he brought the backups out there. And I'm not even sure if they continued to go against the first team or if they brought out the backup defense. But all I know is that after that false start, Eric Bieniemy was livid and told everybody to get out. Didn't matter if it was your fault or not. And I love the fact that he's holding everybody accountable. And they were off the field for a while, like at least 10-15 minutes. We didn't see the first string offense again. That is insane. Now moving on to quarterback, let's talk about Sam Howell, man, and how great he's looking. Well, first of all, my boy Josh Taylor, if you don't follow him on Twitter, follow him on YouTube, he's starting to blow up, man. He tweeted out Sam Howell out here looking like Peyton Manning in all caps. So of course that got Commanders Twitter going a little bit. I mean, the post already has 740 likes within just a few hours and things like that. Shouts out to my boy Josh Taylor. If you don't follow him on Twitter, Josh Taylor FB, man, great content over there, going to the games and stuff like that. He flew all the way, I believe, from Texas to attend the games today. So man, that's a dedicated fan right there. So that's hilarious. I know that got a lot of people talking. I wouldn't go all the way to say that he's Peyton Manning yet, but that's fun. That's really funny. That's really fun. I don't even think he meant that too. I think he was just having fun. So do not take that too seriously, y'all. And then also, man, my boy Authentic on Twitter, he's a full-blown diehard Giants fan. He even went because he lives in the area, and he said that Sam Howell can spin it here in person, and the kid throws a great deep ball. And again, that's coming from a completely unbiased Giants fan who, if anything, would want to hate on Sam Howell more than they give him praise. And even he's like, man, I mean, what can I say? What can I say? And Sam Howell was out here hitting everybody. Speaking of deep balls, he hit Byron Pringle on a 50-yard throw, and that's notable for Byron Pringle because, again, a guy we just signed a couple of days ago. He's out here making plays on offense. I mean, maybe he could be a special teams contributor, but then when I did the breakdown yesterday for yesterday's training camp practice, day one, he wasn't included in the guys that was catching kicks and returning kicks in practice, so maybe he's not competing for that. Maybe he's solely competing for the receiver spot, and it sounds like he's doing what he can with the time and the snaps that he's getting because he's making catches from Sam Howell, who's your QB1. He's made plays against Emmanuel Forbes. Well, he wasn't able to catch it. Emmanuel Forbes had a great pass breakup, but the fact that he's even out there with Emmanuel Forbes, a first string corner, again, catching passes from the first string quarterback, they're giving him every opportunity to make this team. And do not be surprised by the end of all of this, and we're going into week one, 53-man roster. We already know Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, De'Ami Brown. We're going to talk about De'Ami Brown today, man, because he was not playing. Curtis Samuel, your automatic 4. A lot of people feel like Dax Milne may be safe. I'm not sure. Marcus Kemp, the two Chiefs wide receivers, Marcus Kemp and Byron Pringle, may end up getting those last 2 spots to fill out the 6 wide receivers that we'll more than likely keep going into the 53-man roster. I mean, there's a chance we can keep 5. There's a chance that we could keep 7, even though I think we're more likely to keep 5 than to keep 7. So I think 6 is a nice middle. Do not be surprised if it's the automatic 4, and then the 2 Chiefs receivers end up filling it out. Not even just simply because Eric Bieniemy is our new offensive coordinator and assistant head coach, but these guys have strong impacts on the team. Marcus Kemp is one of the only tall guys we have in the receiver group. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. And he's also a strong special teams contributor. Not a lot of guys on this team are just certified special teams blockers. I mean, go look at that tape from the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl. And then Byron Pringle's out here, first of all, for his size, to be able to run as fast as he can. His potential, his ceiling is pretty crazy. He's an explosive player, as you can tell by the 50-yard bomb he caught from Sam Howell. Great throw from Sam Howell, of course, and we're going to get back to Sam Howell, but I just wanted to take a break and talk about that because, man, do not be surprised. Those last 2 spots go to some Chiefs receivers, man, and everybody else is just out of luck. All of the guys that we're excited about, Mitchell Tinsley, I'm personally excited about Bryson Tremaine from Stanford. We still have Dax Milne. We have a lot of guys here. Hey, man, it can get interesting. But also, man, Howell was just out here doing everything that he felt like doing, especially through like the first half of practice. I mean, just throwing dots, and a lot of them were off of his back foot. Like, he was just having fun. It wasn't even like perfect mechanics. Off the back foot, boom, like right on the receiver where it needs to be and all of that type of stuff. And then shouts out to my boys at the Tay and Todd podcast. If you don't follow them on Twitter, make sure you do that as well, because, man, they have some great information and opinions as well. They tweeted, I love that Howell has a cannon, but he doesn't feel the need to rock it every throw. Knows when to take some heat off the ball. And that is huge, y'all. That's one of the biggest compliments I've heard about Sam Howell this whole time. You're like, yeah, you can throw great deep balls. That's great. Yeah, you're mobile. throws off the back foot are really cool. I mean, that's elite level stuff. But to have a rocket, but to know when to throw those rockets and when not to, that's touch. That's nuance. That's stuff that even quarterbacks that are years into the NFL just still don't have the ability to do that. Some guys just throw rockets every throw no matter what, and that's hard for receivers to catch. That's hard to put the right angle on it. Again, yesterday he threw like a perfect rainbow at like the perfect angle, perfect trajectory to Brian Robinson at one point yesterday, and then he can also throw the 50-yard, 60-yard bomb like it's nothing. That is probably the thing that has me the most optimistic about Sam Howell. The fact that he knows how to put touch on the passes when necessary. That's beautiful, man. And then Sam Howell starts of 7 of 7 with a completion to Brian Robinson, and Cody Barton was right there. Like, great coverage. I'm not even necessarily sure if it was a smart throw, but Sam Howell just happened to fit it in the right window where only Brian Robinson could get it. Poor Cody Barton, great coverage, but what does it matter? And then shouts out to my boy Bleeding Burgundy and Gold at the Bleeding Burgundy and Gold podcast. Make sure you follow him on Twitter as well. Bleeding without the G, and then BNG, B letter NG on Twitter. Make sure y'all follow him because he's going to, I think, as many training camp practices that are open, at least a few of them. And man, we're gonna run through a lot of the play progressions and like some of the sessions that they had today through him. So one play of team session, Howells rolls out left and hits McLaurin in the flats. Then play 2 immediately afterwards, RPO look, Howell misses Dotson high over the middle. Then play 3, Howell hits De'Ami Brown on an over. Pretty ball from Sam. Play 4, gun run up the middle to Robinson, and Robinson looked really good, showed a lot of burst, and he's noticeably leaner this year. And I've heard that from a lot of people, that Brian Robinson looks a little bit leaner, a little bit more cut, and so it's like more healthy weight. He should be a little bit faster while also keeping his strength. Then play 5, offset trip screen to Gibson. Yes, sir. Let's get Gibson involved in the screen game. Let's get him with him catching the ball more often and stuff like that. And then play 6, a trick play so sick that I can't say anything else about it. That's what Bleeding Burgundy and Gold said. So whatever that play was must have been phenomenal. Sounds like Eric Bieniemy's over there cooking something up. Then another session, live 7-on-7 session underway. First play, Howell squeezes it in on a Texas route to Brian Robinson between Khaleke Hudson and Cody Barton. Great throw. Shouts out to Brian Robinson. It sounds like he's catching everything thrown towards him. That's huge. Play 2, Howell hits McLaurin for a short 3-yard gain on a hitch from the slot. Play 3, Howell hits Curtis Samuel on an out route. Samuel proceeds to put a filthy move on Cody Barton after the catch. And hey, man, Cody Barton, don't feel too bad because that's what Curtis Samuel does. He does it to the best of them, man. Curtis Samuel is almost an impossible one-on-one open field tackle to make. Play 4, Howell hits Dotson on a curl from the slot for a short gain. The ball hasn't hit the ground yet. And then play 5, Howell attempts to hit Curtis Samuel in and out. High and outside, first in completion of the session. 2's in now. And then so at the end of that, Tay and Top Podcast pointed out that Sam Howell went 4 or 5 in the first round of 7-on-7s, and the 5th pass was a bit high, that final pass we just talked about to Curtis Samuel, but it was catchable. Curtis Samuel could have caught it, so you know you can kind of blame Sam Howell a little bit. It was a little bit high, but at the same time, it was still catchable by Curtis Samuel. So take from that whatever you want to. And then when the ones came back out, the starters came back out for another 7-on-7 session. The first play, Howell hit Dotson in the flat. Probably would have been a coverage sack though, so you know he had plenty of time and guys just weren't necessarily able to get open because the secondary was clamping everything up. He ended up completing the pass, but in like a real game, it more than likely would have ended up being a sack or a pressure or something like that. He wouldn't have had that much time. The second play, Howell hits Turner for a moderate gain in the middle of the field. Hearing some Cole Turner news. Third play, Howell rolls out right and throws an absolute laser to De'Ami Brown in the corner of the end zone. The arm strength and ball placement is evident. So De'Ami Brown making a big play, and Sam Howell finding his UNC connection from their days back in college, balling out, man. It's unfair. It's absolutely unfair. And then, so at the end of that session, shouts out to Tan Top Podcast again, Howell finished 7-9 in the 7-on-7 drills overall. I mean, that man was dicing them up. Shouts out to Josh Taylor again. He said Sam Howell looked flawless today. Great touch, tight window throws, velocity off the charts, going through progressions. Out of all of that he said, I felt like, I mean, the touch is great. We already talked about that, but his ability to go through progressions is phenomenal as well. And I mean, granted, now some of those times he was going through progressions like the Jahan Dotson play, it probably would have been a sack in a real game, but I'm just glad that he's used to going through them, and it sounds like he's making the right decisions after going through his progressions. Then coming back to bleeding burgundy and gold again. Now, first team 11 on 11s. First play, Howell hits a tight end on an in route. Chase Young just made Charles Leno look silly, and I know that clip is going around everywhere on the internet right now. And I mean, the Commanders just don't want that type of video released to the public. I mean, people not even necessarily supposed to be recording that play, so that's the only reason I'm not going to upload it. But if you find it, you find it. Chase Young made Charles Leno look silly for real. It was bad, bro. He hit him. He tried to go outside, and then he came back inside. Like, he faked him kind of outside a little bit, attacked him. Again, not doing that stutter step stuff that was holding him back the past couple of years. And then when he made the move back inside, it looked like Charles Leno overset a little bit to the outside, and Chase Young took advantage of it, moved him out the way, and he was in Sam Howell's face within like 2 seconds of the snap. Like, it was just ridiculous type of stuff. It was just unfair for Sam Howell. Then play number 2, Jonathan Allen gets back there in a millisecond to blow up the entire play for basically another sack. Then play 3, shotgun run by Robinson, goes nowhere. And then play 4, Howell has to throw out of bounds due to pressure. So the defensive line dominated that series of plays. And then play 5, the last play of the session, another incompletion by Howell, good coverage by Forbes and Curl on the play. The defense was dominant that session. Once they kicked it up, man, the defense shut everything down. And I'm really excited about this offense, but boy, going back to Tan Todd Podcast, rough series for the first team offense and team drills. Howell went 1 of 4, and then 2 throwaways because of pressure, sailed 1, and the defensive line was just blowing everything up. There was great coverage. And even with Sam Howell going 1 of 4, remember, one of those, that one completion he had was arguably a sack as well. So technically in a real game, it would have been 0 of 4 because our defense is just that great. Again, when we start to talk about the defense balling out, we're looking at the offense a little weird. Like, are y'all that bad, or is the defense that great? And then vice versa, the other way around. But I just truly believe our defense is that great. I think we're honestly, like, for real this time, going to have a top 3 defense. I mean, you even see guys like Mina Kimes that have no attachment to the Commanders even acknowledging the fact that it's just ridiculous. It's unprecedented how the Commanders somehow found a way to be top 7, top 5 in a lot of defensive statistics and a lot of advanced stats last year, while also being one of the worst defenses at creating turnovers. That's just not possible. Usually the best defenses are the best defenses because they create turnovers. We still found a way to be one of the best defenses without turnovers, which means that if we could start creating turnovers, we probably have the best defense in football. That was basically her main point, and I completely agree. And I just think that now that if our defense is able to create those turnovers, the sky's the limit, man. I'm really excited. So I still feel like this offense is still really good. I think they're very explosive, and I don't think any of that stuff Sam Howell was doing in the first half of practice was a fluke. But once the defense is able to do what they want to do, and they're able to run at them, and they're not holding back, I think this defense is just that elite. I think our offense is really good, and I think Eric Bieniemy is a genius. I think Sam Howell is going to be a special kind of guy out there. But I just think the defense is just that dominant, man. And then moving on, again, like I said earlier, at a certain point, Eric Bieniemy kicked all of the ones off the field for a false start and a few negative plays. And so after that, it took a while. It took about like 10, 15 minutes, but then the ones came back in eventually. Then Kendall Fuller broke up a slant against Terry McLaurin. The first play that the ones came back out. Then play 2, Howell his B-Rob on an out route. Khalid Hudson with some good pressure. So who knows if that could have been a sack technically in real time, but at least Howell was able to get the ball out for a nice gain. And then Howell is high on a corner route to Logan Thomas. Looks like Thomas pulled up a bit. So it is camp. So it's just like, I mean, maybe it would have been completed if Logan Thomas didn't let up. I mean, just taking things easy. It's not that serious. It's not like this was going to count towards any points in a real game. So I'm not mad at him. Then play number 4, Howell hits Cole Turner on an out route working against Jamin Davis. And that's good to hear. Jamin Davis doing what he can to work back into the team. And it's not okay. Let me say the fact that Jamin Davis is working with the twos. He's not only working with the twos. He's even playing with the ones at times. But for the most part, it's the other linebackers getting most of the snaps with the ones. But Jamin Davis is occasionally playing against the ones. Like, again, Howell is throwing the ball to Cole Turner, Jamin Davis in coverage. So Jamin Davis is out there with the ones at times, and they're going to ramp him up. He's going to play more and more with the ones. And then eventually he'll take one of those spots from Khalid Hudson or Cody Barton at some point, probably within the near future. But it's great to hear that Sam Howell is hitting these large targets and these tight ends consistently. And then play number 5, Terry McLaurin torches Emmanuel Forbes for a 50-yard bomb. Howell drops it right in the bucket. And from everything that I'm hearing, and I think I was able to see like a clip of it, it's not like he had Emmanuel Forbes beat bad. it was really good coverage, but it was just an even better ball, and of course a better catch from Sam Howell. And the same theme that I talked about yesterday, great offense is going to beat great defense every time in football. It's literally the way the rules are set up. The rules are literally set up for teams to score points. It's literally set up for DBs to lose. So if a quarterback is on point, a receiver is on point, it doesn't matter if a DB is on point. There's nothing they can do. The sport is literally designed for offense to beat defense. So Emmanuel Forbes can have the best coverage of all time. Like I said, even if it were Jalen Ramsey, it just doesn't matter. If the connection is on point, there's nothing you can do as a DB. So I love the fact that Emmanuel Forbes looks really good out there and still locking people up, but at the same time, the offense is still making plays because that's what an offense is supposed to do. Also, I like the fact that before they started doing team drills, they had Sam Howell doing some RPO stuff. Like one play, he took the snap, handed it off, and then another play, he took the snap and made a quick throw. And they just kind of trying to drill that into him, that like, especially when we're doing hurry up offense, 2-minute offense type of stuff, like get ready. We might want to hand it off one time. You may want to be able to pretend to hand it off, quick throw. And that's just a lot of nuance. It needs to become muscle memory. And that's why they're working on stuff like that. Even with no defenders in front of them, I just like the fact that they're working that in. And then Jacoby Brissett had a bounce back day. I hear Jake Fromm also, I guess going from throwing 2 or 3 interceptions yesterday, you just can't be worse. So it wasn't like Jake Fromm was good today, but he wasn't as bad as he was yesterday. Whereas Jacoby Brissett was noticeably better than yesterday. He had an interception or 2 yesterday as well, and he actually looked pretty good. It wasn't even just like he was less bad. He was actually pretty good today. He had a super dime to Jared Patterson for a touchdown with Jamin Davis in coverage, and that's just interesting to hear. Jared Patterson, a touchdown, and Jacoby Brissett dropped it in a bucket. Like we're only Jared Patterson can get it. So, hey, man, again, great offense beats great defense. I'm sorry, Jamin Davis, that's just the way the world works. That's what you sign up for when you become a defender and plan on going to the NFL. Now, moving on to the running backs, I love the fact that coming out before practice even started, Antonio Gibson was playing catch with a lot of the fans. That was cool, man. He did not have to do that. He could have just ran past them, maybe gave some high fives, maybe just waved hello, smiled and stuff like that, kept it pushing. But he took the time to stop. And instead of like stretching, working on some things, he was literally playing catch with fans, throwing the ball back and forth. That was really cool. And then Brian Robinson, he went out of his way coming out to greet pretty much almost every fan that was there on the railing coming out. So big shouts out to him for that as well. And then the most notable thing from the running backs today was Brian Robinson as a pass catcher, man. He's catching everything they throw to him, even if it's a tight window throw with good coverage and it's like a contested catch. He's catching everything. I'm telling y'all, that workout that he had with the offense, with the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, and the tight ends in Florida a few weeks ago, it's paying dividends right now. Fruitful results right now. I'm telling you, Brian Robinson as a complete back that can catch passes as well and be a deadly receiving threat, that's only going to make things easier for him in the run game. It's really unfair, bro. I'm telling y'all, he's about to be a different type of guy. Poor Cody Barton. Again, like I said earlier, great offense beats great defense. And we already spoke about the play that I'm talking about, but Cody Barton was right there for the interception, but Sam Howell just threw the perfect pass. Literally just a few inches to like the left or the right, and it's a completely different play. It's probably intercepted by Cody Barton. It was that much of a tight window. And then again, speaking of running backs, Jared Patterson caught that really great pass from Jacoby Brissett over Jamin Davis at one point. I like the fact that Jared Patterson is making plays. I hope he makes the team. It's not looking extremely likely right now because he's competing against Jonathan Williams, and then of course 6th round pick Chris Rodriguez is more than likely going to make it because that was an Eric Bieniemy pick himself. We'll see how that goes. So Jared Patterson's fighting for a spot. I'm just hoping because Chris Rodriguez and Jonathan Williams are pretty much almost the same guy. Chris Rodriguez just comes with a higher ceiling, and then all of those guys are pretty much the same thing as like a Brian Robinson. So if you want like a change of pace type of guy, I feel like Jared Patterson could be a secret. I already did like a full 5-10 minute breakdown of why Jared Patterson could be a secret weapon for us, and like how his lack of height and defense is struggling to find him behind the line of scrimmage is like literally like a secret weapon because teams don't practice against that. All throughout training camp, you never practice trying to find a running back that small behind these gargantuan offensive linemen, and then when you have 1 week to prepare for the Commanders and we throw that guy out there, your guys just don't have the mental reps and the muscle memory to be able to combat that. And he's such a quick, decisive runner that once he finds the hole, he's gone. And that's why it seems like Jared Patterson's always ripping up these nice yard runs because the defense, the linebackers and guys literally can't find him, and by the time they see him, it's too late. He's already running past them. I just feel like he's just a secret weapon that we need need to unlock and use more often. Hopefully Eric Bieniemy finds the way to get him involved, because I'm telling you, luckily our defense has to go against it consistently. So whenever we potentially go against a small running back, we're ready, because we simulate that in practice by having Jared Patterson. A lot of defenses don't, man. Most teams don't have a guy that's just that unique with his niche and his play style, and like we have with Jared Patterson. Now moving on to the receivers, man, this was Dyami Brown's day, y'all. It wasn't just one play, it was a lot of plays. But most notably, man, he had this one great catch deep down the sideline, man. It was just absolutely ridiculous, man. And a lot of people are talking about how right now Dyami Brown is looking like he's just one of them ones, man. He's just one of the ones. Whether it's Sam Howell throwing on the ball, Jacoby Brissett, it didn't matter. He made crazy catches all day for touchdowns. One super contested catch, I think it was over Tariq Castro-Fields. He had to like head top him. And we know Dyami Brown is like a deep threat. That's like what he's known for. He's going to be the guy that gets all of the deep passes, as we saw like with Carson Wentz. The one moment of greatness, the one great game that Dyami Brown has had so far. And honestly, Carson Wentz's best game as a Commander, at least for a couple of quarters. It was Dyami Brown catching deep ball after deep ball for big gains and stuff like that. And I believe one of them even went for a touchdown. And so that's what he's known for, being the deep ball threat. And that's what he was known for coming out of college. Like if you look at advanced stats, he was the best deep ball threat in college football for like his last 2 seasons in college football. But now you're telling me that he's out here making these ridiculous contested catches. I mean, the ball slightly underthrown, not really underthrown, but it wasn't put in a place where only Dyami Brown could get it, where he could go high. He had to kind of come back for it a little bit, kind of backing up, and then kind of like take it and grab it. Super contested catch, great catch. I love the fact that his hands are getting better, because I was worried about his hands these past couple of preseasons where he was just dropping random passes. But yeah, man, I mean, that poor Tariq Castro-Fields, because he was right there the whole time. I mean, Tariq Castro-Fields during a lot of that play was actually further down the field than Dyami Brown, and then right before the ball got there, he was in great position to make the play, and then Dyami Brown said, nah, I need that, my boy. I'm gonna need to take that off of you, my boy. I know you're supposed to get this interception, but I need that. I need that. Also, man, Dyami Brown, I mean, a lot of people are just saying, like, from Grant Paulson, he said he just left Ashburn after watching the second practice of training camp. I really liked what I saw from Dyami Brown. He was heavily involved and made the catch of the session on a bomb from Brissett. I'm betting on seeing him more this season. And the reason I wanted to read that tweet is because I agree. I think Dyami Brown is going to be more involved in the offense this year than definitely last year. I mean, of course, you can kind of say that by default because we barely used him at all last year, but I think Dyami Brown's going to contribute way more than a lot of people think. I think he truly is the fourth receiver. I feel like he's one of the automatic 4 that's going to make this team. Like, just he's just too electric. He's been making too many plays this offseason. He finally has his quarterback as his quarterback again. They had 1 year separation where Sam Howell had to play college without Dyami Brown. Dyami Brown had to go to the NFL without Sam Howell. I think now we start to finally see that connection pick back up. And again, but the most important thing is that Dyami Brown's making the plays even if it isn't Sam Howell. Even if it's Jacoby Brissett, he's out here making amazing plays. So he's looking like easily our 4th best receiver. I think it's like, of course, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, 1 tier. Dyami Brown in his own tier behind that, but he's steadily trying to work his way up into that top tier. And then there's a gap, and then it's all of the other receivers we have on this team. Dyami Brown has definitely separated himself. And I know it's too many mouths to feed. I mean, all of these tight ends, all these running backs, all of these receivers, we're still trying to get them all the ball, and I'm expecting Antonio Gibson to get a bigger role in the offense moving forward, but I think Dyami Brown is still going to be very active. And then tight end wise, nothing noteworthy other than the fact that I love the fact that they're doing so many blocking drills. We know what they can do as receivers. We saw all throughout voluntary OTAs and mandatory mini camps. Logan Thomas was literally Sam Howell's favorite target all offseason before we headed to training camp. Literally, like, it was Logan Thomas, big gap, everybody else. As far as Sam Howell's favorite target, his most trustworthy target, the guy he was throwing it to the most, the guy that he felt the most comfortable throwing the ball to. If there were ever a pressure situation where it was like, when in doubt, press the red button, it was going to Logan Thomas. So we already know what they can do as receivers. We already know what Cole Turner can do as a receiver. And I love the fact that we're developing the blocking from him, Logan Thomas, Cole Turner, Curtis Hodges, all of these guys. That's what we're working on the most. And of course, John Bates can already block, so he's good. But I love the fact that these receiving tight ends that we have are doing a lot of blocking drills. Eric Bieniemy is trying to make sure we get that under control. Also, some people are speculating, I'm hearing rumors from some of the Commanders reporters that Cole Turner could just end up being one of the big receivers that we still kind of need, because again, our only tall receivers are special teamer Marcus Kemp, and that's what he's mostly here for, to be a special teams guy, special teams blocker specifically, more so than like an actual wide receiver. And then undrafted free agent Bryson Tremaine, who I highly doubt makes the team. I love him. I love his talent. I think he has the chance to be one of those really, really good big time receiver targets that we could develop and stuff like that. I think he could be that guy, but I'm not sure if he has enough time this offseason to prove to the Commanders that he can be that guy. Maybe next year, maybe the year after that, or something like that. I think it's going to be like a slow and steady thing like Cam Sims, but I think he has a higher ceiling than Cam Sims. But maybe he can make a strong impact on special teams just like Cam Sims did to work his way onto the roster and give himself more opportunities to show what he can do as a receiver. But either way, man, I mean, you have Marcus Kemp, Bryson Tremaine, and then that's it as far as tall wide receivers we have in our wide receiver room. All of our best receivers are at most 6'1". So like those are the only guys that we have that are like 6'5" and higher. So people are speculating that maybe Cole Turner, instead of trying to keep forcing them to learn how to block better and stuff like that, even though he progressed a little bit last year, and we're working on the drills like I just said just a few minutes ago, it sounds like that some people feel like we should just go ahead and move him to just being a bigger receiver where we have to block less and just go out there and be a big target for us. Then offensive line wise, nothing very noteworthy. No like real updates against Sadiq Charles, starting left guard. Nick Gates is just starting center still from yesterday. Nothing changed as far as that goes, and the rest of the offensive line is already who you know it is. Charles Leno left tackle, Sammy Cosby at right guard, and Wiley at right tackle. The only thing really notable today is that the D-line ate them alive today. But I want to bring up two major points. First of all, this is a new unit that's still trying to gain chemistry with each other that's going against the best defensive line in football. Chase Young and Montez Sweat on point. Chase Young fully healthy and not doing that stutter step. This is the best defensive line in football, point blank, period. There's no arguments about it. I really don't feel like it is. We'll see what Jalen Carter does with that Eagles D-line. And, of course, you have all of these like elite edge rushers like Nick Bosa and the 49ers D-line and stuff like that. But we have the best defensive tackle duo in the NFL. That's without question. Like Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, that combination is ridiculous. And even though Deron Payne isn't out there right now, don't sleep on Fedarian Mathis as well. And then on the edge, man, come on now. So it's just like this new unit, honestly, probably the unit that has the least amount of chemistry and the most change going from the 2022 season to this 2023 season. So we should expect some early bumps in the road. And then second, most important point is that with no pads and no real contact, the D-line is at an advantage. So the D-line is already the best D-line in football, and our offensive line is still trying to figure it out. And last year they weren't that great anyway. And then on top of that, with the way that we're practicing with no pads, no real contact, it doesn't allow offensive linemen to truly hit and put their hands on the defensive lineman like they normally would. So right now they're just getting out finessed. Like just Chase Young, Jonathan Allen are putting on these finesse moves on these guys, and there's nothing they can do. They have no real pads to grab onto and stuff like that. I really feel sorry for these offensive linemen right now. They're getting cooked. Absolutely cooked. But again, it's great news for guys. I mean, again, moving to the defense now. We're going to start with the defensive line, but just overall, the defense is just getting after Sam Howell no matter what. I mean, during the blitz pickup time portion of the practice, it just seemed like they were getting there every time. But I feel like it was more so the defensive front than even the blitzes, because even during the times that we weren't blitzing, the defensive line was in Sam Howell's face all of the time. The first half of practice, the offense was making plays, especially on 7-on-7s, but that's literally designed for the offense to beat the defense. But then after that, once the defense kicked it up, it was nothing the offense could do, man. Sam Howell was pressured like literally every play like we went through earlier. And most notably, Chase Young looks like Defensive Rookie of the Year Chase Young again, man. It's really scary right now. He has the burst. It's ridiculous. Jonathan Allen is getting up the middle with no problem. It's just absolutely unfair what this defensive line is doing to the offense. And again, like I talked about earlier, the play that Chase Young made Charles Leno look silly. I don't want to upload that. I don't want the Commanders coming after my neck. But if you can go find that play, a few people have posted it on Twitter. And hey, man, it's really bad, bro. But when you're looking at it from the offensive line point of view, you're like, oh, this is terrible. But when you're looking at it, trying to see what Chase Young is doing, you're like, oh, yeah, this is double-digit sack season type of stuff right here. That's how good he looked on that play. Then linebacker-wise, again, like I already said, Khaleke Hudson and Cody Barton are still getting the majority of the snaps for the linebackers with the first team. Jamin Davis is mostly working with the twos, but he's also working with the ones occasionally. But again, this is just for him to ramp up, not only just physically, but mentally, to catch up and being used to running team drills and practicing. He was only doing individual drills, literally just jogging in place back and forth, running, doing things with cones. That was it. All the way back to the Cowboys game week 18 last year. So going from that to now having to training camp, Of course he's a little bit, behind, even just mentally, like muscle memory processing and trying to figure out coverage things. I mean, first of all, he's the defender with the least experience going against Eric Bieniemy's new system that he brought in. Everybody else has been practicing voluntary OTAs, mandatory minicamps, getting a chance to know, okay, this is how Eric Bieniemy likes to draw up his plays. So as a linebacker, this is what I need to do to counter that. Jamin Davis, this is his crash course, first time dealing with an Eric Bieniemy-led offense. Until yesterday, the first day of training camp, Jamin Davis has only covered against Scott Turner-led offenses and practices. I just want y'all to really understand how big of a difference is and why Jamin Davis is struggling a little bit. He's making plays. He's showing flashes. He's still Jamin Davis. You can just tell he needs to ramp up a little bit. And then also, again, earlier, like I said, Jared Patterson beat Jamin Davis on that one play with Jacoby Brissett threw an absolute dot to Jared Patterson. I hope he balls out, man. And then moving to the DBs before we get up out of here, the main last thing we'll talk about. Also have a couple of notes after we finish this. But hey, man, again, Authentic, a diehard Giants fan, said that Forbes is skinny, but he is putting the clamps on every receiver. That length is showing. Can't wait to see what happens when we put on the pads and there's full contact and he has to make a play against the run. He has to shed a block or two or something like that. Can't wait to say what he looks like against that. But as of right now, in coverage, he's looking like one of those potential lockdown guys. I know a lot of people see him as he's going to be like a Trevon Diggs type of guy. Like either he's getting a turnover or he's allowing a big play. I don't see that. I think he's actually has some lockdown tools to him. I mean, the fact that he's keeping up with Terry McLaurin right now and pretty much forcing Sam Howell to throw the perfect ball and making Terry McLaurin have to make the great catch to even catch the ball. If it's not that, Terry McLaurin is pretty much locked down. And how many people can say that they're locking down Terry McLaurin, man? Especially in like 7-on-7 drills where it's literally built for the offense to beat the defense. The nature of football, the way the rules are set up, is for the offense to beat the defense already. And then when you move to 7-on-7 drills, the offense have an even larger gap and advantage. And so the fact that Terry McLaurin, man, I mean, he's making plays. He's still Terry McLaurin. He's still a top 8 receiver in the NFL. But Emmanuel Forbes is with them stride for stride, step for step, no matter what. And there was even one time when Sam Howell tried to throw a ball to Terry McLaurin on a slant, and Kendall Fuller had a nice breakup on it. And that's the thing with Kendall Fuller. Like, I think Emmanuel Forbes and Benjamin St. Juste are more coverage guys where they're going to be with the receiver step for step. Kendall Fuller lacks athleticism, but he's one of the smartest corners in the NFL. He's one of those guys, the way he makes his money is that he gets to the ball before the receiver does. So instead of like completely mirroring the receiver, because he doesn't have the physical capability to do that, he's so smart, he knows how to get to the ball before the receiver does and bat it down. That's his game. That's the way he makes pass breakups. Where Emmanuel Forbes and Benjamin St. Juste, you're going to see them fighting with the receiver, break the ball down, coverage, like with that little arm around them, bat it down with the other arm type of stuff. Kendall Fuller is going to just be completely separated from the receiver and just in the middle and just hit it down type of stuff. That's what he does. So I love to hear that. Kendall Fuller still looking like Kendall Fuller. Special teams wise, nothing noteworthy. So before we get up out of here, just a couple of random things I wanted to talk about. First of all, again, Rigo's Rag even pointed it out. Like I said earlier in the video, man, Ron Rivera sounds completely different, looks completely different, feels completely different in all of his press conferences right now. Rigo's Rag said that he looks like he's loving life again. It's a completely different Ron Rivera, bro. If you haven't seen it yet, please go check that out. And then also, lastly, Samuel Cosmi explained what Josh Harris told the Commanders and what he'll be giving them as a new owner. Because remember, after practice yesterday, none of the reporters, I believe, were allowed to be there. It was only coaching staff. It was only players, maybe some front office guys, but reporters, fans, nobody could see that. There was reportedly like a time after practice yesterday that Josh Harris spoke to all of the players, the entire staff and stuff like that. So that's what Samuel Cosmi is speaking on right now when asked about it today. He said, quote, "Whatever it takes to get us the best of the best tools to be able to win." Unquote. So it sounds like Josh Harris is like, hey, man, again, like the message he gave when he first bought the team after his press conference. It was like the thing in the Washington Post paper or whatever, something like that. He basically, his whole philosophy is we're not going to come in here and act like we know everything. We want feedback to know what y'all want. We're not just going to assume what y'all want and just force it down y'all throats. Tell us what you want. What would make you better? What would allow you to do your job better and easier so we can win more football games and get some Super Bowls? And that's basically the message he gave to the players in private yesterday. Whatever it takes, whatever best tools, like facilities, just whatever, just let me know type of stuff and I'll make it happen. I love to hear that. And then as for what Samuel Cosmi thinks of the camp setup, he said, quote, "It looks put together. It looks like a professional football team," unquote. And I mean, I'm happy when I hear that, but at the same time, I'm like, that's sad, man. It's not even like he said the practice facility is state of the art, it's the best thing smoking or nothing like that. He just said it looks like a professional football team, which means since he's been here, we haven't been a professional football team probably since Dan Snyder's basically been here just in general, which is just insane. One of the reasons why we were one of the worst free agency destinations for any free agent NFL players out there looking around like, I mean, yeah, the Commanders have a lot of talent, but that ownership sucks. The coaching staff is still, yeah, all right, we're working on it type of thing. And then the facilities suck, the stadium sucks, all of that. And it's just like, why would I want to go play for them when I can go play for a team that's better on the field and most importantly better off the field as well? Well, now Josh Harris is coming in and fixing all of that, and it's just sad that it's been like that for so long, and us fans have no idea how bad it truly was because we're not players. Well, I mean, we hear about how bad it was at times, but we'll never fully grasp how bad the setup was under Dan Snyder, and I'm so happy that Josh Harris is coming in and fixing that immediately. And speaking of that, I'm working on a video because Josh Harris already put out his ideas for what he plans on upgrading on FedEx Field before we even start getting the new stadium. He wants to make sure FedEx Field is a way better experience before we even get the next stadium that may potentially be at RFK. So make sure you stay tuned for that video as well. But that is about it right there. Oh man, I'm seeing Joe Burrow got hurt and Jalen Ramsey. That's sad, man. That is really sad. That sucks. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release these informative and opinionated videos, all of these daily updates of training camp practices and stuff like that. Man, make sure y'all stay tuned for all of the content. It's so much. Rookie film sessions, I'm still working on those. I've just been super busy, and now I'm even more busy with training camp stuff coming. And again, I'm uploading the clips from the practices so y'all can see everything that I have access to. And then, of course, I'm going to do my own breakdowns every day. So you're getting at least 2 videos a day just from that alone, let alone rookie film sessions, any updates like this Josh Harris stuff that I'm gonna talk about in the next video that's coming out, any just random stuff. It's so much going on, man. Make sure y'all stay tuned. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Are you hype about the Commanders? Are you optimistic? Do you agree or disagree with any of my points? Do you have any questions about some players that I may not have talked about that I'm gonna try to get in the comment section and reply to those and answer those? And of course, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Please leave a like on this video again, and shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors' names you see scrolling on the screen right now. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.